So that's really the big question, isn't it? We all know the imagery so well, the manger, the shepherds, that bright star. But if we push all that aside for just a moment, what really happened? What is the story at the very heart of it all? Well, that's exactly what we're here to explore together.
You see, this story doesn't just pop up out of nowhere in a stable. Not at all. It actually starts hundreds of years earlier. It begins as a series of promises, almost like a whisper carried through the ages by prophets, all building up this incredible anticipation for a king who would be completely different from any other.
Just try to imagine it. For centuries, the nation of Israel was in this state of waiting. You had prophets, guys like Isaiah and Micah, talking about a savior who was coming, a Messiah. And these weren't just vague, hopeful wishes. They were dropping specific clues, setting the stage for an event that was still way off in the distant future.
And what's so wild is just how specific these prophecies were. I mean, the prophet Isaiah foretold the miraculous how of the birth, that a virgin would conceive. And the name he's given, Immanuel, carries this huge meaning. It literally translates to God with us. Talk about a major clue, right?
And then you have the prophet Micah, who pinpoints the exact where. Not some grand capital city, but Bethlehem, a small kind of overlooked town. So the how and the where were on the record for centuries before anything even happened. And with that stage set, the story shifts from the grand sweep of history to a very personal story.
Okay, so with these ancient prophecies hanging in the air, the story suddenly zooms way in. We go from centuries of history to this deeply personal human moment. It all kicks off with a totally impossible announcement made to a very ordinary young woman.
This moment right here is such a crucial turning point. When the angel Gabriel appears to Mary, her first reaction is completely human. It's confusion. How will this be? But what she says next? Wow. It's this profound statement of acceptance and faith. It's just an extraordinary response to an unbelievable message.
Of course, Mary wasn't the only one whose life was just turned completely upside down. Think about her fiancé, Joseph. He was suddenly facing this agonizing situation. The woman he was pledged to marry was pregnant, and he knew he wasn't the father. What an impossible dilemma.
So just as Joseph was struggling with this, trying to figure out the right thing to do, he received his own divine message. An angel came to him in a dream, confirming Mary's story and explaining that this child was from God. And what's so important here is that both Mary and Joseph chose to trust and obey, despite all the confusion and the personal cost.
And so, this young couple, united by this incredible secret and their shared faith, set out on a journey. A journey that would lead them right to the place of prophecy, where a king was about to be born in the most humble circumstances imaginable.
And this is where it gets so fascinating, watching how history and prophecy just collide. A political decree from the Roman Emperor Caesar Augustus, a man who had no idea he was playing a part in this divine story, is the very thing that forces Joseph and a very pregnant Mary to travel all the way to Bethlehem.
They finally arrived, exhausted from the long trip, only to be met with rejection. The town is overflowing with people there for the same census. Every door is closed to them. There's just no room, creating this powerful sense of isolation. And this brings us right to the central image of Christmas. The promised king, the one called God with us, isn't born in a palace, he's born in a stable, basically an animal shelter. His first bed is a manger, a feeding trough. The contrast is just absolutely staggering.
Though the birth itself was quiet, humble, and pretty much unnoticed by the world, heaven was not staying silent. And the news wasn't sent to the powerful or the religious elite. Nope, it was first announced to two very different groups of people.
The very first witnesses were shepherds. Now, in that society, shepherds were often looked down on, living on the margins. Yet, they were the first to get the news. An angel appears to them in a field, tells them not to be afraid, and that a savior has been born. And then, the sky just explodes with a choir of angels singing. Can you imagine? And what do? They immediately go to find this child.
At the same time, far away in the east, a completely different group of people noticed something. These were magi, wise men, scholars who studied the stars. They saw a new star, understood what it meant, and set off on this long, epic journey to find and worship a newborn king.
And their gifts weren't random. They were so deeply symbolic. Gold was a gift for a king. Frankincense was an incense used in worship, a gift fit for a deity.
And myrrh, an embalming spice, was this prophetic gift for someone who would one day suffer and die. His entire story was foreshadowed in these three gifts.
So you have these two groups, the local, humble shepherds and the distant, learned wise men. They couldn't be more different, yet they both end up kneeling before the same child. This moment just shows that this event was for everyone, for all kinds of people.
So, we've walked through the narrative of what happened on that first Christmas. But to really understand this story, we have to ask the bigger question. Why did it happen? Why does this 2,000-year-old story continue to resonate so deeply with us today?
At its very core, the story of Christmas is about this concept right here, the incarnation. It's the belief that God chose to become human, to become flesh, to actually live among us, to experience our joy and our pain.
This verse really captures the whole idea of what's called the Great Exchange. The creator of the universe, who is infinitely rich in glory, willingly became poor and vulnerable, born in a stable. And the story says he did this so that humanity, through him, could become spiritually rich.
So when you strip everything else away, this is the message. It's not a story about humanity striving to find God, but about God, motivated by love, stepping down into our messy, complicated world to come find us.
And we end with this thought. That one small light in a humble manger in a forgotten town was the beginning of something that would light up the darkness of human history. It's a reminder that so often the most world-changing events begin in the quietest, most unexpected ways.